Hi. Are you burnt out at work? Do you get home exhausted? Do you work from home being exhausted? Well, a lot of people are in a similar case as you. Uh, we're all getting burnt out at work and we're looking for relief. And that's what this episode is about. We're going to talk about how to succeed without burnout. So I'd like to invite my guest here. We have Anderson Dinga. He's an IT guru. He's a change champion. He's a marathon runner and he's going to be soon best-selling author. So, Anderson, we were talking a bit about the book that you're working on. Tell us a bit about that.
Uriah, thanks for having me, man. Those are some pretty serious accolades. I really appreciate that. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I really love this topic on burnout. It's near and dear to my heart. So before we jump into the topic, though, Uriah, I'd love to introduce myself. My name is Anderson Dinga. I've been in tech now for about 20 years, and I love tech. I love being on your show. I love talking about technology. There's no shortage of technology everywhere. You turn around, you see AI, you hear about automations. I love that stuff. That helped me build my career and get me to where I am right now. But a lot of my today's focus has been around wellness. We all kind of saw what happened during the pandemic. We all kind of shared the same, not the same, but similar experience when you talk about health and wellness, and mental health has become front and center for a lot of people. It has become front and center for me ever since I did a 6 month road trip during the pandemic. And when I came back from that, I started struggling with my mental health, and I realized a lot of people were struggling with their mental health. They were struggling with this thing called burnout. And so that set me down the path of researching, understanding it, but also healing from it. I had to heal from it because I experienced it myself, and now I'm here to talk about it. I think it's a topic that's timely. It's very relevant. It's not the most fun. It's not the most fun topics to talk about, but it is very relevant. There's a lot of people who are struggling with it, and there is a way out. I think that's the biggest thing that I came to find out from my journey, is that there's a way out. And when I came out of it, I discovered there's so many blessings, so many breakthroughs, which I'd love to share with you today, which is also going to be in my book. But Uriah, thank you for having me. I love this topic. I'm deeply passionate about it. I can talk all day, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as to like what inspired you to create this topic around success without burnout.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling it a bit too right now. So that's there's always more work than there is time in the day to get done.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for ways that can help me in my work and finding that work-life balance as well. And I went through the struggle kind of similar to you. I remember when we were doing this merger between the two companies of LogMeIn and GetGo, and I was just working nonstop. And there's this funny story that I'll never forget. Um, I was working a lot. We were analyzing all of our different systems, our data, and everything that had to be moved over. So and we were doing these migrations over the weekend too, because we had to do it after hours. And I didn't really notice it until one day we were actually doing this like investigation of this one employee who we thought wasn't pulling their load. And so one of the IT managers say, "Hey, can you like look into the logs and see this person's activity, like sign in and log in and see what they're doing, their login activity." So me and this IT manager, we went into the logs, and there's so much out there. So we were scanning the logs, and we saw this person's login activity like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then it's like there's nothing by the end of the Friday. So I'm like, wow, that's kind of odd. So I was like, well, let me compare it to something else. Let me look at myself. And and I looked at myself. It was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was like straight across the board for the whole week on an average. It's like, what's going on? Like, am I working too much? And it wasn't until I saw that I still remember seeing that chart, that bar chart, and I was like, "Wow," like, I was going through a lot, like, we just had a new baby. This was my first child, and so we had that going and working a lot, commuting back and forth for an hour each way. So I remember like, wow, like I can't keep this up. So I really had
Yeah.
to learn how to like put boundaries around work. And so it keeps on happening through so much to people in all different industries, not just in IT. I even found I was going to bring up this article that I found, and it was talking about how bad is a burnout, and they surveyed like almost 1,500, 1,400 different people, and
Hmm.
44% of them said that they were burned out or
Oh wow.
emotionally drained or used up at the end of the day. And so it's just
Wow.
like it's a big thing happening right now. And people need help, with what they're going through.
I've seen this article before, Uriah. This is from SHRM. SH is one of the biggest resources when you talk about HR, HR communities, HR resources. And it's interesting when you combine the two numbers, the two leading numbers, the 44 and the 30%, if you combine those two, you realize that most of the time we're stressed out. Like that's 74% of the time we're stressed out. Anything beyond stressed out says that I'm not bringing 100% of myself to work, right? Anything
Yeah,
beyond
it's
stressed
totally
out
true.
doesn't matter what you're talking about. And then beneath that is anxious, which is also not good. Which is also not good. I
Hmm.
saw the numbers from Gallup. Gallup is a really good resource when you're looking at statistics around mental health and wellness at work. Gallup says 76% of workers are experiencing it. That says to me, if there's four of us sitting in a room, three of us are struggling.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
a
definitely.
that's a huge challenge. And I definitely hear you when you talk about looking at those charts. That's real life experience, looking at yourself and then comparing that with somebody else, seeing how your chart is constant. Like, is that a good thing or not so good thing? If you're working on the weekends and you got a newborn, you definitely cannot spend as much time with your newborn. So I think this is why I did a lot of that. Uriah was the inspiration around me writing the book. It's challenging. It's not just about preventing it or overcoming it. For me, it became something bigger. It became because when I started to uncover it, it wasn't just about work. It wasn't just about my personal life. It was everything. It affected everything for me. My relationships. It affected my even some days. It's like I didn't even feel like eating, which is something I enjoy doing. I didn't even
Hmm.
feel like running, which is something I enjoy doing. So this is about challenging what our preconceived notions are, what our norms are when you talk about personal success and personal accomplishment. Because a lot of us are falling into the hustle culture, the grind, whatever you want to call it. Like, I love the grind,
Hmm.
I love the hustle. But at some point, you got to take time for yourself. You got to set some boundaries. You got to um, realize that you can't keep going full throttle every single day, Monday through Sunday. You can't keep doing that. Even the greatest athletes, they take a break. They have an off season. So
Yeah.
you can't keep pushing yourself. Steph Curry's, all of them, they have an off season. They take a break to let their body recover, to learn new skills, to rest, to digest all the things that they've been learning so they can keep going. So it's really, really important. Self care. While we're talking about this, I used to think this topic of self care is so funny. I used to think self care meant that I was being selfish. Did you feel that way?
Mm. Yeah, because sometimes you're like, well, I'm leaving my team behind, or all this other work has to get done. Who's going to do it? And if you're
Yeah,
thinking about yourself, then kind of that you got to put that stuff down.
exactly. It's so crazy because, like, who's gonna take care of you? right?
Right. That's a
When
good
you're
point.
sick, when you're down, who's gonna take care of you? And that's why I talk about challenging the preconceived notions around personal accomplishment or personal success. Because if the personal accomplishment is just checking off these boxes and accomplishing these goals, but at the end of the day, you're depleted. And and as we talk about depleted, I think we're going so far into the topic. I want to dial back a little bit and maybe explain to some of the viewers what it actually means by burnout. Because I know sometimes we just throw this word around. I've seen a lot of people throwing it around on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on the different social media without actually understanding what it actually means and what the level of severity is. So, if it's okay with you, I'll just take a step back and just maybe give the viewers a little basic understanding of the difference between burnout and just like regular stress.
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. Okay. So let me start with regular stress because we all feel regular stress. We probably feel it most of the time. Um, so, how does regular stress play out for me? I'm running late. That's usually how it plays out. I'm running late to a meeting, to an event, to catch the bus or the train. My heart typically is racing. I'm feeling a little bit warm. Maybe I'm sweating a little bit. But that's how regular stress shows up for me most of the time. It also shows up like if something happened, like someone cuts me off, or I got into an accident, or some event that I did not expect to happen. That's what regular stress is. It just it stresses you out. It's usually it's like a short amount of time and then it's gone. It may last maybe a few hours, may last a day, but usually that and then it's gone. The difference between that and burnout is that when that stress is extended for a long period of time and when it feels like you're stuck in it, like I can't I'm in it constantly. It's here. I wake up in the morning and I feel the drain, the dread, and all of that stuff. And by the way, it's not just like when we talk about the exhaustion. The exhaustion part is a part of it as well because you really feel tired, but it's a very different tired than I worked my muscles like I worked out for a day. No, you literally feel like there's nothing left in me.
Right. And you
But
start
like
out that way too. You can start the day out that way. It's like, what happened?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like I was saying to you earlier, even the things that are exciting to you, like going for a run, seeing your friends, and all of that stuff starts becoming very hard to do. You were sharing some examples. For me, the things that came naturally to me, like I sent emails all day long. I remember the day I was sitting there and I had to type an email. It was a reply actually, so I didn't really have to do too much thinking. I just had to hit reply and then type my thoughts and then send it out. And I remember sitting there in the email and looking at the what I needed to type and just staring at the blank screen as the cursor was blinking. I I couldn't really process what I needed to say in the email. Like I was
Mm.
so stuck thinking that I couldn't take the action to go to the next level. That's how tough it was for me. But the thing about it though is that it it doesn't have to be your fate. It doesn't have to be something that you experience, and it doesn't have to be some place that you get stuck in. Because I know so much of the time we think about preventing it, but inadvertently we end up in it, right? So much of the time we
Right.
talk about preventing, but inadvertently you might end up in it. So how do you get yourself out if you end up in it? And of course, how do you prevent it, right? Like it's a very valid topic to talk about how to prevent it. But before we get to there, what causes it? What causes it? Now that we have an understanding of what it is, why did it happen in the first place? What have you been seeing, Uriah, on your end as to like some of the causes of it?
Well, there's always like the external sources and there's internal. Sometimes it's maybe someone left your team and then now you're short staffed, or there's like a big project coming on, or the business or company is demanding more of you. But then it can also be putting stress on ourselves, like, oh, I have to do this, I have to succeed, I have to, raise the bar all the time. And so it can be coming both right ways. You get pressure from both sides of you. So Yeah, that's where I've seen it come from in both scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah. You're 100% right. I think so much of the time we put that pressure on ourselves to go and accomplish and do things. And um, that was my issue. A lot of times it was the pressure which I put on myself. And then the other 50% is when society puts the pressure on you. Like, hey, Uriah, can you send me this email? And it's the weekend, and you know you should not be doing that on the weekend. But society is going to do what society is going to do anyways, so you feel that pressure coming from external. um um Before, as we're preparing for this conversation, one of the I do a lot of research. I look at resources like Glassdoor and Sherm just for data and things like that. And I came across this post. This was a post from a senior engineer, and they were talking on Glassdoor about how they were going to quit their job. I thought it was really interesting how people would make a public announcement about quitting their job. But then I went into the post some more to try to understand why this person was making a public announcement about it. It turns out that they actually said they love their job. They love the people they work with. They love the company. But slowly they have noticed a change going on in the company. They found that they were getting paid to work 40 hours a week, but they're really putting in somewhere around 50 to 60 hours a week. So they were giving away 10 to 20 hours for free, or they were doing 10 to 20 hours of work for free.
Mm,
And it's interesting when you talk about the causes of burnout. This person was not getting recognized. Sometimes we think it's about doing more, and there's people who are doing more. This is because people are doing something that they don't enjoy. But there's so many different reasons for which burnout happens. This person was just not feeling, yeah, they may have been feeling the strain of doing 60 hours a week where they signed up for 40, but they were not getting paid. So recognition goes a really long way, towards helping to solve, to prevent some of that. And I've seen that happen quite a bit in a lot of different scenarios where employees don't feel like their work is meaningful. They don't feel like their work is being recognized either by their boss or their company or something. So they keep doing this task, but there's no reward. It's like, why do I want to keep doing that? So
right. Yeah, it's
that's
important
one
for
of the things
companies
that I
to take
see.
notice too. To because if their employees are being burnt out, they're not doing their best work. Or they're looking for another job, or like this is too much stress, so they're going to jump and go somewhere else. So
Yeah,
if these businesses want to keep top talent, they need to make sure that their employees aren't getting burnt out because then they're going to burn them out and they're not going to be useful. So it's like you keep on driving a beaten car that you don't maintain. It's just going to break down on you. Then it's not going to be useful at all.
absolutely. I think you say that. I think it takes two to tango. Like in any relationship, it takes the both sides. Um, I found that the environments where find the most empowered is where I care and they care. You know, I
Hmm.
care about the organization and the mission, the vision, the values, and all of those things, and they in return reciprocate. They care about me. They care about my well-being. I have time off to go do the things that I need to do around self-care, and I have time to focus and deliver the thing that I need to do to make the company move forward. So usually that's the best scenario. Organizations I've seen, like where you and I worked together at Go2 years ago, I've seen a lot of organizations who have adjusted their benefits packages, they've adjusted the benefits programs to meet their customers where the employees and the customers where they're at. So think about companies who have provided unlimited vacations to some of their employees. Think about the ones who have delivered things like self-care days so you can actually take a day off, and the rest of the company is taking a day off. It's not like a day off for you where you come back and your mailbox is full. If the entire company is off, then everybody's off, and then you come back and you're starting where you're at. There are a lot of companies who are taking these steps towards delivering a culture that's actually built towards empowering the employee to be healthier, right? Not to be sicker. So I do strongly believe, Uriah, that it takes two to tango. It takes both the employee to have the responsibility of themselves. It also takes them creating an environment or being in an environment that can support them better. What are you
Right.
seeing from your experience?
Yeah, I tell my team like, look, if you need to take time off, take time off. But it's really their responsibility. You have to go in and schedule that time off. Like I'm not going to go and schedule it for my team members. Like, okay, you're gonna take this week off, this week off. It's up to them. But I tell them all the time, like, take the time off. Don't worry about the work. Set it down. We'll cover for you. So you're right. It takes two sides. That the vacation time's there, but you have to schedule it and put it on there. Even if you don't go anywhere, like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. Like, okay, just take the time off. Spend a day with your family or 3 days or whatever, and just
Right.
disconnect for a few days. So you're right, definitely right. It takes both sides to really be invested in your self care.
I
So
have a
what
question
have
for you.
been okay? Because I was had a question
Oh,
for you, but go
sorry.
ahead.
Sorry, your question
Well, I'm
first. This
interested
is
I'm
your
interested
shit.
in hearing some of the things that you found out. Like what have you found that has helped, people, either get out of burnout um or just avoid it altogether.
Yeah. Um, Before I answer that question, first of all, I will say this. People think about burnout like they think about, actually, the way I think about burnout is the way I think about having an accident, having a cut, falling, any failure, any obstacle that you've ever had to overcome. Um, Typically on the other side, there are a lot of, and if you want, there are a lot of growth moments that you experience along the way. And for me, I had a huge number of growth moments. Some of the things that you shared, like learning boundaries and, learning time management. People would share time management techniques all my life, and I've learned so many different time management techniques. But when I came out of burnout, I really learned how to say no, which is probably the best the best time
Yeah.
management technique I've learned in all of my life is saying no. I'm taking back this time, you know? And I feel that a lot of us who worked in the corporate world, we just didn't have that sense of agency that we could say no because we were scared that we're gonna get fired, you know? But now I know, you know what? I have value. If I say no and they fire me, it's not on me anymore, it's on them. So I'm just gonna say no, right? So
Yeah.
that's number one. Is learning about, what your boundaries are and what your capacity is, because again, that onus is on you. You have that agency. You are in control, right? The second thing that I've learned, and this is probably the first one, Uriah, was gratitude. um, I say gratitude because burnout for me, the way I see it now, it was a gift. It's a huge gift. And
Hmm.
if you asked me months ago, years ago, I would have been like, no, that's the worst thing that ever happened to me. But here's what I know about bad things and challenges. My greatest growth opportunities came out of my challenges, not the successes, not the wins. It's really the
Mm.
challenges. So behind every challenge is an opportunity for growth. And I found my greatest growth opportunity out of burnout. So it was a gift, and for that I'm grateful. So gratitude is something which I put out there. And if you're thinking about practicing gratitude, there is no right or wrong way to do it. You can write it, you can speak it, you could do it with your family, you could do it by yourself. You could get a journal and do a gratitude journal, or send a text message to a group. My coach actually started by sending a text message to five of his friends, and then he practiced it every day for 365 days. Um, I practiced it every day for 30 days. And the way I did it was just to write down three things that I was grateful for every single
Hmm.
day. That was it. That was it. So those are just a few tips there. Of course, I wouldn't be complete if I didn't mention therapy. I think, especially for me as a guy, a lot of guys are like, nah, I don't want to go tell somebody about my problems. If you find yourself in that situation where you're like, oh, I feel stuck, or like it's been weeks, I haven't really had a good night's sleep, You know, it's not a bad idea to talk to somebody, you know. So I know that therapy has gotten a bad stigma before. It's gotten a bad name, like, oh, because I'm sick, or oh, because you're broken. No, there's nothing wrong with getting answers for yourself. You'll go to a doctor, right? If you cut yourself or if you're sick or something, right? So this is a doctor for your mind. So just a couple of tips there, Uriah. What have you been seeing helpful for you, either on the prevention side or on the recovery side?
Yeah, I've been, tackling this for years now, and how to, help even just myself and others is really set boundaries. Like we talked about boundaries for work and, scheduling time like, okay, this is the time I'm going to work and this is the time I'm not going to work. And yes, there's always, especially in working in IT, there's emergencies, things come up. Those are exceptions to it, but for the most part, it's like, okay, I'm focused on work. This is what I'm doing at my desk, at my computer. And then you're done. You're like, okay, I'm put this down here. And so I'll do things, excuse me, I'm sorry, still getting over my cold, but I'll do things like I'll turn off the notifications on my phone. Like either way, like if I'm at work and people are calling me, texting me or something, like it'll be on silent and I'll check those notifications after I'm done working. Or the vice versa. When I'm not working, I'm turning off my Slacks and emails and stuff, and I'm not watching that stuff because now it's time for like my time or my time with my family. So setting those boundaries where it's like, especially working from home, because that's what I do. You're there's no separation. It's like it's just it blends all together. And sometimes people can like, why I wake up, I'm working. I don't stop working because I'm still at home. There's no transition that we used to have when we'd go into the office. I'm working. You leave the office. Okay, I'm done working. Now it's just like work's always there. Follows you. It's within a hand's reach. So just setting those boundaries helps. I think helps for me too to set that stuff down.
Yeah. Yeah, and you talk about the continuum between work and life, and I really love this topic, and I know there's a lot of people who talk about work-life balance, and it's unfortunately those two things. When I started my career, those two things looked like they were two standalone things. There was work you went to, and it was very different from life, you know. Yeah, and nowadays everything is all kind of blended in. So work is life, and you work from home, and you bring your kids into your Zoom calls with you or your dogs and all of that stuff. So it's really really important now to be aware. And I'll throw awareness in because that was one of the things that I needed to work on was my awareness. Are you aware that you're spending this much more
Right.
time at work than with your family? Just building that awareness. Are you aware that you've been burned out? Like I wasn't even aware that I was.
Mm,
I didn't even know that I was. So it's really coming to that awareness, and then once you recognize it, then you can start the process of investigating. Okay, like what happened? Like what do I do? But I love your thoughts around the boundaries because yeah, there's no need to just keep burning that midnight oil. At some point something's gonna give. So recognizing where you're at and then saying, nope, I'm gonna take time for myself. And then for you as a leader, I love this part, just empowering your team as well, because I'm sure there's a lot of leaders or middle level managers or leaders of companies who are watching this video who are wondering, well, how can I empower my team? Because sometimes it's about you. Sometimes it's really not about you. It's about your team. Yeah, I got the workaholic on my team. How do I get this person to take a day off and look after themselves? Um,
right.
that sometimes is the question. Showing that you care about them by leading by example. You take a day off, your team is probably going to see that and go, oh, I don't need to be here when my boss is here. So leading by example is super important. Everything that we're talking about here applies to us. But when we start doing those things for ourselves, I think our team can really start seeing that and really start emulating it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Setting that example for them. Like I'm
Yeah.
about to take some time off. I'm going to take a week off, go with my
Where you
family
going?
family out to going out to New York. So we'll be out there
Nice.
for a bit. Hopefully, it's
Very
not too
nice.
cold out there. Um,
Nah, it's
but
not.
one thing I
This
also was
this
thinking about, I was thinking about this book that I listened to called Slow Productivity,
mm,
and it's by Cam Newton, I think. This is the author's name. I'll leave a link in the description. But um, he did a lot of research, researching people, and understanding the how people get work done. And a lot of times we could just do busy work. He called it like pseudo work, where it's just like we're answering emails or we're just doing the little things, but we're not really working on the important things that like move the needle. Like, yeah, this is something that I'm going I'm going to do this and focus on this right now because it's going to help me, 3 months, a year down the road, things are going to be better. And sometimes we're just so caught up with the incoming fire hose of work coming toward us, we're not really thinking ahead for ourselves. So he kind of had three main ideas that he put in the book. Is one is to do less things. We're always we're trying to do 100 things at once. Like just focus on just a few things or just one if possible. Like even for the day, like this is what my goal is to get this done. Whatever it might be, and then do fewer things, but then when those things that you do them really well. Like you really put in the time for the quality. Like I'm going to make sure that this thing's my best work. Because when we're working on too many things, we're not giving our best towards it. We're just like we're just like sending it all out as fast as we can, sending those emails as fast as we can, just on to
yeah,
the next thing. So
yeah,
if we're doing fewer things, but we're really like we're overproducing, we're just blowing it out of the sky because like how well we're doing this because we have the time to focus just on fewer things. And the third thing in the book was kind of like what you mentioned, doing things at a sustainable pace, um, where in this type of corporate environment, it's like there's no seasons. It's just always like working at 100% all the time. It never slows down unless, like you said, the company shuts down for a week or 2 weeks or something, maybe
right.
during the holidays. Then it can maybe slow down for a bit before it picks back up.
Right.
Like you mentioned with um, sports players, NBA players, they
Yeah.
have a season. They're putting in all the work. They're working hard. They're playing all these different games, and they have a slow down season. They can like recover, refine themselves. Work on something, and then they pick it back up. So it was kind of like that. You think of like farmers too. Like there's a time of the year, the planting season. There's time then it kind of slows down because you have to wait for those seeds to grow, and then there's a harvest. Then you're working a lot. So it's like these seasons of ups and downs, but not constant all across the board all the time. So if there's ways for us to do that where we can, uh, sometimes it does require when we work a lot, but then other times when it comes down a little bit more focused time, like okay, let's figure out what we're doing, then it comes back up again. So I really appreciate that book, and I've used some of the techniques he talked about from that book in my own work um, life. So
Nice.
it's helped me a bit.
What's the name of the book again? I'm gonna check it out after.
It's called Slow Productivity.
Slow productivity. Okay. It sounds it sounds like something I come across, but it's not the same. Slow productivity. I come across this one by a gentleman. His name is Dan Kahneman. He has a book out called Thinking Fast and Slow. And I found this book to be really helpful to me because we're in a world right now which is kind of, I say, is flipped backwards, and I feel like we need another podcast or another episode for this conversation. We're in a world right now that's flipped backwards. So in I believe in a normal world we should be moving more, we should have more physical activity, and thinking less. We should have less intellectual activity. However, we live in a world now where we're sitting for the most part, so we're moving less, and we are consuming the technology, the AI, the data, so much information at once. So we're thinking more. And I love this book, Thinking Fast and Slow, by Dan Kahneman. I'll share the link with you as well so that you can share it with the viewers in the chat, because it really helps you to think how to balance things out, At what times in my life do I want to think fast? And at what times in my life do I want to appreciate the slowing down, the mindfulness, the self-compassion, the resilience? All of those things are really important for you to grow, right? So it's all of it really comes down to finding ways to balance things out, because it's not about doing one thing and doing it all the time. No, it's not about working 7 days a week. No, it's about taking those breaks at times when you know you need to replenish, you need to recharge, you need to give back to yourself so you can continue to do this work. So you're right. I really love this topic. I feel like we need another session to really break down to to really break down some of the breakthroughs that you and I have had in our careers when you talk about the path to success, because it's not a straight line. It's really not. You know, you might have set a goal for yourself, not realizing that along the way you may inadvertently drive yourself to burnout. You may not realize that. But
Right.
when it happens, you handle it. You deal with it just like anything else that you deal with. Unfortunately, though, society right now, a lot of the messaging that you get is a messaging around empowerment, right? It's not a lot of messaging around nurturing, around healing. But if you have been there, you have to heal. And I'm not talking about taking a day off or taking a week off. You have to go through the healing journey, come out on the other side, and then keep going, and then you keep going. But you can keep going. I keep going every single day, living my best life, and I think that I'm a testament to the fact that you can heal, you can overcome, and out of the journey that you're on, you can find a lot of breakthroughs that can actually allow you to go through this life better and have a better appreciation of even the most minute things. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm like, you're right, I kid you not, it's like having clean water, having an air that I can breathe,
Hmm.
seeing you, seeing the people who are seeing my family, seeing the people who are in my life, and realizing, wow, I'm so blessed. I have so much to offer. I have so much to offer to myself, and I have so much to offer to people. That helps a lot. But I can guarantee you that there's a lot of people who are going to burn out right now, and they're thinking, what is my worth? Is it even worth it for me to be here? Right? That was a thought at one point in my head. So, yeah, I love the topic, man. I really, really enjoy this. It's like athletics for your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Exercise your mind that way. Yeah. We look forward
Yeah,
to hearing about updates on your book, and I'll be the first in line to pick up your new book.
I love
And
it.
so yeah, I really appreciate you jumping on the call, jumping on this episode. We look forward to doing more topics, more topics that interest people, that maybe things that they're dealing with that they can use some help with. And we'll have more episodes to come. So really appreciate you, Anderson. Thanks for coming out. I hope everyone has a good day.
Thank you so much, Raya. Thanks to everyone for joining. I really appreciate you and your time and your energy. And have a lovely day. Continue to look after your energy. I think that energy management is something which, and I know we talk about time management quite a bit, but energy management is something that's underrated. And I just want to share that one last final tip because it really helped me a lot with my recovery. And it also helped me a lot today when you talk about moving forward. So, I'm looking forward to our next episode. Peace and blessings to you. It's been absolutely incredible. I love these conversations with you, and I love it when we can share the knowledge, the experiences, the skills that we have to help others, other IT people, but other people in general to be better in their careers. So thank you, Ruaya. Have a lovely rest of your day, week, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Awesome. Cheers.